Be honest, when was the last time you laughed at home? Wouldn't you love the chance to see live comedy? Great news! October 1st to October 4th, we've got Plano Virtual Comedy Festival. Live comedy from the comfort of your own home. We've got stand-ups from Los Angeles to New York, from Canada to Malaysia, from Conan to NBC to Fox. And on Zoom, you'll have a front row seat to every show all weekend. Head to PlanoComedyFestival.com to get yourself a weekend of hilarious comedy straight through your computer via Zoom. Plano Virtual Comedy Festival. Go to PlanoComedyFestival.com for more information. Get your tickets discounted when you buy before the end of September. Again, go to www.PlanoComedyFestival.com for tickets, lineup, and schedules. Bring the laughter back into your household. PlanoComedyFestival.com for all of your festing at home comedy needs. MediaTek Institute is a proud sponsor of the Plano Comedy Festival.
Hey baby, I hear those blues are calling. It's time for the Frazier on Frazier podcast.
Yes.
Welcome. Hello.
Hey.
What?
Hey.
Hey there.
Oh, have you been saying hey to me have you been saying like hello to me? I thought we were saying hello to our...
You were raising your hands up like you were going to do something.
All this time I thought you were like saying hello to our audience, and I should have been saying, hey, hello audience. We haven't greeted you at any point in the previous episodes. Hi.
Well, I mean, I'm greeting everyone. I'm greeting you, the audience.
I'm included in hello. Okay, good.
Yes.
I was worried about that.
You're Wes Corwin. I'm Adam Frazier.
Yes.
If you're a regular listener to the podcast, you already know this. But for the sake of people who, for some reason, decided to start on the 16th episode of the podcast,
we're on episode 16.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our names.
Yeah.
So, today on the Frazier on Frazier podcast, we were talking about episode 16, of the first season of Frasier, the show where Lilith comes back.
The show where Lilith comes back.
And that's not a description; that's the name of the actual episode.
But also a description.
Yes, it's much to the way Friends would name their episodes, just like, the episode where this is what Frasier is doing.
This actually gave Richard Friends, the creator of Friends. His name is Richard Friends. He got this idea from this episode of Frasier.
Is that true?
Yeah, he named it after himself. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes that lines up. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about. So yeah, this is the episode where we're introduced to Lilith,
or reintroduced rather, because she was on Cheers.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Cheers, you're not familiar with Lilith yet. But Lilith, played by Bebe Neuwirth, did make numerous appearances on the show Cheers as Frasier's girlfriend, eventual wife, and it's we're told at the beginning of the series of Frasier that they had since divorced. So this is her first appearance on this show after having divorced Frasier.
We've had a number of references. He's been on a phone call with, and we're frequently fed the fact that his son is with Lilith and being raised by Lilith while he is in...
Right, they're in Boston, he's in Seattle. He travels up there to see them occasionally. Mm-hmm. Sometimes Freddie comes down to Seattle to see him.
Although we haven't seen Freddie yet, but we are meeting Lilith.
No. Yes, we are meeting Lilith for the first time. Where is Freddie in this episode? Do they even say?
Is
Freddie...
how is Frederick? Well, as you know, he's been in... Okay, we'll get there, but to give you a taste, he is currently at a chess camp in the Berkshires.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. So we're starting off this episode. We've got Frasier is the radio booth. He's talking to Hank, who's dealing with a weight loss issue.
Yeah.
Hank is voiced by Timothy Leary, of all people.
Timothy Leary, who do I know? What do I know him from?
The Shocker.
The Shocker.
The classic Wes Craven film about the serial killer who kills people through electricity.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's neat. Yeah.
But also a famous counterculture figure. The tune in, tune out, drop in, whatever. That whole deal.
Nice.
So very not really well known for his work in film and television, but very well known for his work outside of that.
He's like an American. He's a psychologist, and he believes in like mushrooms, psychedelics.
Right. He's Dr. Feelgood.
Yes, he was once described by Richard Nixon as the most dangerous man in America.
Which, if you're described as the most dangerous man in America by Richard Nixon, you're probably doing something right.
Probably making some good choices. Yeah, he was also and now here he is finally. He and Frazier together at last.
So his character Hank is dealing with weight loss issues. He's tried all the diets, the milkshakes 3 times a day. He's listened to the scary bald lady on TV, which I didn't catch that reference initially, but I did some digging, and by digging I meant like a 5-second search, Google search, and I think he's talking about Susan Powter, who's was a Australian-born American motivational speaker, nutritionalist, personal trainer, and author who rose to fame in the 1990s for a catchphrase, "Stop the insanity."
Stop the insanity. Yeah, she was an Australian woman, and she wanted us to stop being insane, which included losing weight and not drinking as much. She was also a special guest on the first episode of Space Goes Coast to Coast.
Was she? I thought that was so. I know who you're talking about now.
Yes.
Now that you brought up Space Goes Coast to Coast, I know exactly the person we're talking about.
Here we go. Now there we go.
So yeah, it's her, and so Frazier gives him advice. He's says some part of him's not being fed, right. And to which Hank retorts, it's not my butt.
Which is you don't feed your butt anyway, Hank. You feed your mouth and it goes into
He's talking about feeding your inner self.
Yes.
Your career, your love life, your self-esteem. Those are the types of things that need to be fed. And we get a glimpse at kind of what happens. I think this may be the first time we've addressed it. What happens when Frazier is dealing with someone who's calling into his radio show who has a problem that can't really be resolved within just the span of a brief radio phone call. Someone with a deeper issue. So he refers them to a therapist, someone, I guess, who can give them extended therapy, that sort of thing.
He suggests, which implies, I don't know if Frazier can write prescriptions to other or recommend. I guess you can recommend people. So I guess that's what he's doing.
He writes the prescriptions and then he just sort of folds them up and puts them through the phone holes, holding the phone, and then
pushes through the phone. And then that's how phones worked back then. You could just push stuff through the holes and people would get stuff on the other side.
It was like Wonka Vision, but radio.
It was. That's what it was.
So, and I only bring that up because it's going to come up later at some point, I know.
The little holes in the phone? Oh, okay.
Oh, no. How Frazier hands if someone's dealing with a really big issue, Frazier will refer them to a psychiatrist.
I see.
So, the call ends with Hank, and then we get a call from Lilith, who is not. I guess she disagrees with Frazier, as often happens on Cheers. From what I've seen of the episodes with her, she is often at odds with Frazier's opinions on psychiatry. So this is a perfect example of that. She basically she says you've let some unsuspecting innocent down one of your dark, dead-end Freudian hallways, and that it's mostly if you're having an issue with overeating, it's a behavioral problem. You need to do some behavior modification. Just all this stuff basically says that Frazier is,
It's a psychology versus behavioral psychology problem, where Frasier's inclination is to dig at the deeper issue causing the overeating, and Lilith says that's foolish. It's a surface level problem that all you need to do is do some Skinner style, like reward yourself when you do good stuff, or hurt yourself when you do bad stuff, and then you'll start to see positive results. And Frazier says, "Screw you," to a certain degree. He says, he calls out Lilith and says, "What? We have a celebrity." And Lilith says, "What do you mean by celebrity?" And he reveals, "Oh, they know you," because he's complained about his ex-wife many times on his radio program at this point.
Right. He also he presses the cough button, which basically mutes him, so the listeners and Lilith can't hear him, and he sort of gets on Roz's case, because Roz was the one, of course, who put Lilith through.
Naturally.
Frazier isn't happy about having to talk to his ex-wife on the air. But Roz, of course, is ecstatic about it because she loves conflict.
Yes.
She wants to put Frazier in an awkward situation because it makes for good radio.
Of course.
And it gets even more awkward when Roz suggests that that Frazier invite Lilith to dinner,
right,
because she's in town for, I guess, some sort of a psychiatrist convention.
She's here for a convention, and she said she just happened to hear Frazier's voice on local radio.
Right.
And Lilith reveals she's not doing anything for dinner. Frazier's like, "We'll have to catch up on your next trip." And Lilith's like, "No, I'm actually free." And Frazier tries to play her off. And then Roz feeds him, "Why don't you ask her after dinner, Dr. Crane?" And as he's being very cordial and polite with a little bit of venom in his voice, he starts writing a note on a little sheet. And as he's inviting Lilith to dinner, he puts on the window "You're fired." And Roz had apparently ready a manila photo back on the window that says, "I'm union," and she's invulnerable to being fired.
It didn't even look like she was writing it down either. It looks like she just had that.
She just has it at all times.
She has it loaded.
Just in case she must get fired or threatened to be fired all the time, because she just has it.
Yeah. I also want to point out that when Lilith mentions that she's not doing anything for dinner, Frazier tells her to keep her dial tuned to KACL for Gil Chesterton's Restaurant Beat. And this is the first mention we hear of Gil Chesterton, who is a character who also works in the radio station, who we will also get to know. And I don't think he's made an appearance so far. I think that's still a couple episodes away. I think that might actually be in penultimate episode of this season where we first meet Gil.
But his entire radio segment is called The Restaurant Beat, where I guess he reviews restaurants.
He reviews restaurants. From what we see of his segments, I'll say it real quick. He also offers people advice on where to go if they're having a special dinner, and sometimes he'll even get people into exclusive restaurants with his connections and stuff like that. There's a bit more to it than just him reviewing food, although I think that is the majority of what he does.
That's neat. That's cool. I like to imagine him and Chopper Dave trying to review a restaurant, but it just entails them flying over the top of the restaurant, reviewing their roof. I think that would be a fun collaboration they could do together.
I think there are more scenes in this show with Gil and Bulldog.
Okay.
That with and as far as the other characters who have shows on KSAL, I think they're probably the two that interact the most.
Yes.
And it's because they're good foils for one another, because Gil is he's a bit more like Frasier, where he's a bit more, prim and proper.
He's posh yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we'll get to Gil later. For now, Frasier has reluctantly invited Lilith to dinner. Lilith has agreed, and we cut to the Frasier's apartment where they're preparing, I guess, for the dinner. Martin is going on about how he can't believe that they're visiting, they're having dinner together, it's all nice, and they didn't get divorced a while ago. He talks about whatever happened to the sanctity of divorce.
Yes, which is a funny line. That's a funny.
It is a funny line. Yeah.
You're gonna know. So as somebody watching this episode, you're gonna notice a couple different wheels at work, a couple things at play. Daphne, for instance, has a horrible headache, as we revealed, is a psychic headache only when a negative force is in the same city as her. So apparently, Seattle must be the happiest city on Earth. Because no one else has a negative energy quite like Lilith's, which is making her have a full-on migraine at all times.
Right.
At the same time, Niles is planning to go this entire meal without speaking to Lilith on account of at Niles and Maris's wedding, while Maris was reciting her vows, which she wrote herself. There was snickering in the back of the room, and it was revealed that Lilith was snickering and laughing. And Niles, he has never got an apology from Lilith, and subsequently plans to give her quite the cold shoulder throughout the night.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Niles and Martin are both not big fans of Lilith. No. Martin, I think he even talks about how the fact that Lilith is weird.
Mm-hmm. And then Frazier goes, maybe she's a little strange. And then Martin point and go, no, Maris is Lilith is weird. And
yeah, he does it with that emphasis too. It's kind
of weird. Yeah.
We learn. So Niles is like, gee whiz, Dad. Like he actually says gee whiz, like it's like the 50s.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, Dad. I had no idea you preferred my wife to Frazier's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think that's really the case. I have a hard time believing Martin likes either of his son's wives that much.
We don't get that. We've never gotten that vibe before. I don't think we'll ever get that
vibe. Yeah. So yeah, we get to, of course, the moment where Lilith arrives. Frazier lets her in.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. She asks where Maris is,
mm-hmm.
And Niles says, she's visiting her sister in Chicago. And then Lilith says, I thought perhaps she was sailing up the transplendent river of your love. Which she says in a way that we're meant to assume that it was that is a line from Maris's wedding vows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she's so openly mocking her wedding vows,
after hello, immediately after hello is, hey, here's a reminder that your wife's wedding vows sucked ass. I'm Lilith. I brought wine, and she just throws it on the floor. Yeah, that's Lilith.
The look on Niles' face is also fantastic.
Horrified.
He is so shocked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On the balls on Lilith.
But let's see. It's a fun sort of thing. Lilith is a fun character. I'm gonna go ahead and say now. One back and forth she and Frazier have includes we've done the apartment, and then Frazier does a polite thank you, and then she elaborates, you have beautiful things, and he goes, the settlement is final, which is very fun. Also, because we have to have an Eddie bit every episode, Lilith sits on the couch, Eddie jumps up, she says, go away, and he does, which is a thing I don't know if we've seen him obey commands in a previous episode, especially
Definitely
not Frazier's.
Not from Frazier.
Definitely not.
And I think it's punctuated very well because there's that whole bit where what was it? Frazier says, I can't believe he listens to you, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then Martin reveals, I took a half step before I realized she was talking to the dog, which is...
Yeah, she's very forceful.
Yeah.
Lilith is quite an interesting character, and I think she gets a bad rap. I think, as we see her throughout the series, I think her and Frazier do develop a bad relationship.
Right.
This is at the very beginning of that, and they're still not. Lilith still isn't horrible. She's not like Maris, where she's kind of distant and very, very combative, I guess, is what you would say.
Sure, but yeah. At this point, she's still she's I think so. I think that sums it up.
I just think she gets a bad rap. We do learn about Frederick's whereabouts. As you mentioned, he is at chess camp while Lilith is on this trip to Seattle. They're learning. He's learning to master the Alhausen Graver opening, which I looked up, and I think it's basically just when you move your pawns first.
Oh.
In chess.
Okay. That's a pretty standard chess opening.
Well, I'm probably getting it wrong.
The Alhausen. Okay, I'll look that up. You keep carrying this. You got this.
Yes. So yeah, the dinner continues. We get an after dinner conversation. Martin is, I guess, retelling the story. Perhaps I don't know if they specifically say that it's from the incident where he got shot in the hip, but he does talk about a situation where he was chasing a perp down a dark alley. Guy turns around, pulls a knife on him, so I gave him a couple good shots with my nightstick.
Mm-hmm.
And Lilith, fascinated by this, is like, I have to ask, were you aware of any sexually repressed urges while you were pummeling him so mercilessly? And Martin is obviously uncomfortable with this line of questioning, so he just kind of sarcastically retorts, yeah, but I didn't put him in the report.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a funny back and forth. I don't know, and maybe it's a comment on who Martin is, but I don't know how you get to the point where you're talking about police work and you're talking about a time that you chased a guy and started beating him unconscious with your nightstick. I don't know how you organically get there, but clearly Martin found a way.
I think that's pretty standard after dinner conversation.
Oh,
seems
okay for Martin,
because wasn't it like a couple episodes ago they were at like a fancy dinner party and he brought up like the beheading of a hooker,
right,
to one of Frazier's guests.
That's a great point, Adam. This is pretty common behavior for him. That's great.
Lilith, sensing that Martin's being sarcastic, though, she says, "You're having some fun at my expense, aren't you?" And Martin replies, "Not much."
In fact, I'm going to bed. Good night. And that's I think that's the last time we see Martin this episode.
Yeah. And Daphne inquires about how long she'll be staying in Seattle. She says through the weekend. Oh, and Daphne's like, oh, well, enjoy your stay. And then she turns around immediately and is like, I'm going to be dead by Saturday. Because, again, she's suffering from horrible psychic headaches.
She literally shook hands with Lilith and her entire arm, she lost all feeling in it. So it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for her.
So basically, Frazier and Lilith are left alone. And this is the first time they've been alone since they were told. Oh,
there is one more person has to leave, and that's Niles, and he's like, I guess I'll say and he says goodbye to Frazier and tries to give Lilith the cold shoulder. Frazier establishes to Lilith, like, hey, let's be adult. Niles is upset because you snickered at his wedding vows, and she replies very robotically, very Lilith. I simply responded with the genuine spontaneous emotion I was feeling. And then Frazier's like, come on, dude. But if Niles is not mature enough to accept that, if he is so pitifully insecure, if he's in such need of validation, then I guess for some sense of familial harmony, I do apologize. And after this very backhanded, very inflammatory apology, Niles is overcome with emotion and hugs Lilith and says, oh, this bad blood, oh, thank goodness, and insists next time she's in town, let's get dinner, just the two of them. Which is very sweet, and that's Niles. Niles in a nutshell.
Yeah, Frazier points out he doesn't get that type of validation at home.
Yep, and now here they are. Here they are, just the two of them.
Which gives you again an idea of how Niles and Maris's relationship. It doesn't paint a great picture of that.
Very cold people, it seems like.
Yeah. Oh yes, Frazier and Lilith are now alone in the apartment. It's the first time they've been alone since apparently the lawyers put them in a room and said don't come out until there's some sort of resolution. Mm-hmm. So they start to get to talking. Frazier brings up the convention that she's supposed to be in town for. Lilith says, oh, there's no convention. I'm here because of the letter.
Yes.
And Frazier's like, what letter? And she's like, well, the letter that you left in my apartment last month when you came to visit Frederick, the one proposing that we get back together. And we slowly get to see, as Lilith reads the letter, my darling, how could a love like ours have fallen so far from grace? There must be some part of your heart that still resounds to the rhythm of my own.
Mm-hmm.
I fear that I'll be lost without you. As long as we have love, love will keep us together. And as she's reading this, we of course see a look of sort of slow realization on Frazier's face.
Right.
And Lilith goes on. So aside from the shameless pilfering from the captain and Tennille, I was moved by your words.
Which is, of course, referring to a hit song by Captain and Tennille, "Love Will Keep Us Together." But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It's a joke.
Lilith talks about how, like, she made up this whole pretense to come to a convention because after she read the letter, she realized she wanted to see him, and how much she missed him, and like, oh wow. Frazier reveals that he wrote the letter and left it in the apartment, but it wasn't like a month ago when he came to visit. He left it like a year ago before he moved to Seattle. This was like a desperate Hail Mary, like,
oh, no.
don't let me leave, but she didn't find it. It had fallen behind the dresser.
Misunderstandings of misunderstandings.
Wah, wah, wah. Sitcoms.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
It's a very awkward moment. Lilith, she says she feels like the perfect fool. Frazier tries to console her. She says, I like to leave with at least a shred of dignity. So she leaves, but her purse gets stuck in the door. There's this awkward moment of her trying to, pull the purse.
And then she rings the bell. Frazier opens the door, and they leave. Now that's a spicy comedy. Wow.
So we transition to Frazier and Niles. They're sitting at that table in Cafe Nervosa. This is, by the way, just one of my favorite. This may be my favorite scene in the entire episode.
Okay.
It's Frazier and Niles. Frazier is, of course, talking about the letter that he wrote Lilith and the fact that she came all this way from Boston to see him because they thought there was a chance at reconciliation. Mm-hmm. Niles is reading the letter and he kind of just responds, "Didn't the Captain Tennille sing this?" Frazier's like they own those 3 words.
Yes.
Oh, 5 words. So Frazier's conflicted because, even though the letter was meant to be read long ago and he's since moved on with his life, the fact is he did write that letter. At some point, he was considering getting back together with Lilith, and it's made him, try and decide if he's made the right decision. Yeah. So Niles, or Frazier, is basically asking Niles for help in sort of exploring these feelings and seeing what he should do from here. Yeah. And Niles responds, Frazier, like most patients who come to a therapist, you already know the answer to the question you're posing. You just want me to agree with your decision and support you whether I share your opinion or not. Frazier says, yes, but I don't have an opinion in this case. Niles says, I'm sure you do. Frazier, but I don't. Niles, well, then I can't help you.
And then
it's sort of Abbott and Costello-esque, just the way they have the back and forth that they have here.
I don't know how long David Hyde Pierce and Kelsey Grammer have been in the business of doing lines off of each other, but they have a very natural flow and chemistry. They come off like actual siblings, which is like they have there's no awkwardness at all between them. They're very fun to watch.
I attributed the fact that they are very good at what they do. And I think part of the reason why David Hyde Pierce was cast as Niles, they had, I guess, considered him at one point to play Frazier's brother on Cheers, just because they noted the similarities. and they thought he could actually be his brother. So,
yes.
yeah, they do have very good chemistry together. They do kind of look like they could be related. It's and this whole scene is great with just the back and forth about, Niles trying to get Frazier to come out and say what he's, already decided, despite the fact that Frazier's insisted that he doesn't really have an opinion on what he should do.
Yes.
So Frazier, doing some soul searching, decides that he's leaning towards, seeing if Lilith, going to see Lilith and seeing if there's anything there between them.
Yes.
Niles is like, well, then that's what you should do. And Frazier's like, why? And Niles is like, you know why. So yeah, Frazier comes to the decision that he's going to see Lilith, and he's going to see if there is in fact anything there, if he does want to get back together with her. And there are reasons. They do have, I think he cites the fact that they do have a child together. They have a long history together. There were some good times along with the bad. So, yeah, he wants to see if there's something there still.
And so
this is a bad idea.
Yeah, no, it's not going to go well. It's not. But but for right now, Frazier's decided this is the path he wants to take, and Niles is going to support him because that's his job, is to help people affirm what the route they're going to take.
Right. Niles, it's like Frazier's like, well, I don't know what I would do without you, Niles, and Frazier's like, yes, you do.
And then Frazier goes, drop it, and that's the end of that scene.
So, we get to later. It's a hotel room, Lilith's hotel room. So Frazier and Lilith have just gotten back to her hotel room. They've apparently been out on, sort of a dinner date situation.
Yeah.
And they sort of get. I don't know. I can probably only give you the broad strokes of it.
Yeah. Lilith has left her hair down, which Frazier comments on, and she decided after several hours of careful deliberation and weighing all the consequences, she wanted to be playful, and they went back.
She's a very Lilith line.
Yeah.
She's not the spontaneous sort. She has to overthink everything, of course.
So there's a to hit the beats. Frazier says he felt awful about last night, and that there was a misunderstanding. He thought that she read the letter a long time ago. Lilith says, simple misunderstanding. As Frazier's directing them to the restaurant, Lilith goes on record to say that she respects Frazier for getting on with a new life, starting over in Seattle, as it were. And Frazier says, you're also. He points out that she's doing a great job parenting, and that Freddie is doing a great job, and she has a part in that. And Lilith is genuinely touched, and that means a great deal to her. As Frazier is helping her coat, Frazier points out that's the first nice thing they've said to each other. And suddenly Frazier's quite moved, Lilith's quite moved. And Frazier asks if he can kiss her. They start making out super hard. And then they start saying very posh, but very like romance novel type things to each other. Like, come to me, my white hot flame. Which is, they get into bed very quickly. And that's sort of the beats we're going to hit there.
So this was, Frazier went into this intending, just sort of to see if there was, he still had any feelings for Lilith. And he has, of course, true Frazier fashion, kind of gotten a little bit too deep.
He got a little bit over his head. He's gone all the way on the deep end. Yeah.
Right. So he is now sleeping with his ex-wife.
That's going to happen sometime.
And he seems very into it at the moment, but as we see the next morning,
he's laying
Frazier
in bed,
and
he looks and Lilith is over there, and he starts trying to see if he can shimmy his way out, and Lilith turns over to like spoon on top of him, and he has to like, I meant to be here, and then as they wish good. One of my favorite lines, and it doesn't get a laugh in the episode, is Lilith waking up with a big smile on her face. Good morning. And then Frazier says, like a sea captain, jolly good morning to you too, which I just think is the funniest. That's so. Yeah, I don't know, but I thought that line was great.
You don't that.
I just think that's
Yeah, that is a hell of a way to greet someone.
Jolly good morning to you, like a Irish pastor, which is fun. I like. Lilith says she can stay like this all morning, and Frazier says me too, while like checking his watch over her head. Very comedic visual comedy, and Frazier rushes out of bed when somebody knocks. Puts on a bathrobe. There's a waiter. And the waiter is played by Roger Keller, who I pulled up his IMDb. You might know him as customer number 4 from Caroline in the City, or
that Roger Keller.
You might also know him as customer from Wings, or man from Wings.
So many iconic roles.
He was also the male contestant in Matlock, and he was. This isn't his first role in the Cheers verse. He was a shopkeeper in the Christmas Cheers episode.
Gosh, so many iconic roles.
Do you think that the shopkeeper lost his shop and had to take on a job as a waiter in this hotel?
I'm gonna choose to believe that that's the case.
Good.
It's the same person, different city.
That's my headcanon.
It's not that these are career actors who are just picking roles based on what's available and having to pay rent in LA.
Interesting thing that I'd like to point out is we are going to see Roger Keller again in Frasier, but we'll get there. He is in 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's it's daring of them to use such a recognizable actor in having played different characters in the same show.
I know it is gutsy. It's a gutsy move. We'll see if
those are the kind of risks that producers on Frasier are known for taking.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Don't look this up. Are you already on his IMDb? Are you on it? Oh well, never mind then. Never mind.
Well, no. What were we gonna do?
I was gonna say I'm not gonna remind you when we get to the episode, and we'll see if you recognize Roger Keller when we get to that episode.
I see. Well, I will. Of course, I'll recognize him. It's Roger Keller.
It's Roger Keller, the greatest actor who ever lived.
The man was a drunk in Deadly Games.
he was a photographer in The Nanny, and he was in an episode of Glee. He was Bill from Glee.
Bill, Glee. I love that. I watch that show every week.
I remember there's a part where they go like, "Hey, Bill," and he goes like, "Hey," and then
and they all start singing. It's such a beautiful episode.
Yeah, what a journey.
At some point, we have to stop being sarcastic and actually talk about.
At some point, we have to talk about Frasier. At some point, we have to talk about this episode.
So they ordered room service. That's why he's here. He's the waiter. He's delivering room service.
Career actor Roger Keller playing the waiter.
I'm worried that Roger Keller is going to listen to this and he's going to be pissed at us. How dare those guys make fun of my career as an actor? I worked hard.
He delivers his line, which is "Good morning, sir."
I worked hard playing a male contestant on Matlock.
Matlock. The waiter, played by Roger Keller, says, "Good morning, sir." And Frazier says, "Just bring it in here, please. That's fine." And then he tips the waiter, which is, I think, a little bit of physical improv that Kelsey Grammer was so excited to work across Roger Keller, he figured, we'll do this quick tipping bit. And a little something for you. Thank you. Good day. And Roger Keller, presumable guest appearance Emmy in hand, leaves scene left. Stage
That's
left.
all they could afford.
That's all they could afford for him. So Frazier and Lilith are making comments, and he says, you can feel the vibe that he's like trying to figure out how he feels about what just happened. Talks about how funny.
I think it's pretty clear how he feels. He has come back to. He's come back to reality.
He was flying among the stars, and now he's back on Earth, and he's very uncomfortable. But you can see he's conscious that he doesn't want to step on any toes, so he's talking about life's funny little turns, and he doesn't. It's not that what we did was wrong or overly impulsive. Then Lilith, inspecting the breakfast, says this is a mistake, and Frazier, in a big wave of relief, is like, "Thank God you said that. Who are we kidding? We both have our separate lives. I've got a career. I'm in Seattle. I'm happy for the first time in years. Why would we ever get back together? We were miserable together." And then it's revealed that Lilith was talking about the eggs. She ordered poached, not fried. And then there's a moment where Frazier,
you fool,
you moron,
you really stepped it this time.
you bungled it. At which point,
so he tries to backtrack. He's like, "Well, let me finish."
So Frazier reveals, Lilith accuses him, "Is that how you really feel?" And Frazier says, "Yes." Lilith begins to cry, and Frazier says he's led her down an emotional primrose path, which
he's trying to console her,
right?
Because he does feel bad.
I'm gonna look up primrose path on Urban Dictionary and see if the pursuit of pleasure, especially with disastrous consequences. Famous for the 1940 film Primrose Path, starring Ginger Rogers. And
I was going to say famous for the 1994 episode of Frasier, where Frazier said, "I've led you down a primrose path."
Yes, the movie was based on what would be the Frasier episode. Yes, it's sort of a time travel situation. It's at this point.
Frazier does try to console her.
Yes, and Frazier says, "I don't blame you if you're mad at me." And Lilith reveals she's not mad at Frazier; she's mad at herself. This was a dumb thing, and I think she knew it. She is aware that it was a weird thing to fly all the way to Seattle just to see her ex. She just found the letter. She's felt super lonely. She's a single mother. It's a little scary. And she
raising a child alone, it can be scary. She has to always carry herself as a strong, independent woman. But the truth is that she's afraid, and that's why she convinced herself that maybe she was still in love with Frazier.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, it is revealed that they were it was more of a physical thing for maybe both of them. They just wanted a little something. And it's at this point when Lilith starts getting upset, and Frazier reveals that when they walks Lilith over to the mirror and says, "When I look at you, I see the strong, dynamic, intelligent woman I married. This is you're gonna someday. I won't say anything is trite. Someday you'll find someone, but I know you, and I know that no matter what the future has in store for you, you'll handle it." And it's a sweet moment.
It is, and I mean, this kind of gets to the core of Frazier's character. I mean, he messes up and he does dumb stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. Sorry, listener, that wasn't your phone going off. That was mine. So it gets to the point where even though he knows he messed up, he does his best to kind of console the person, and does offer genuinely good advice, I think, to help them out of whatever maybe emotional problems that they're having. Mm-hmm. And I think that Lilith is also shown to have some vulnerability here, which again is why I don't think she's really as bad a person as so many of the characters on the show make her out to be.
Right. She's not evil. She's just a little persnickety.
There's no reason why Daphne, if she really has psychic powers and can sense an evil forces give her a headache, there's no reason why she should be getting it from Lilith.
Right. Especially consider she must have gotten a headache all the time, considering how corrupt Hollywood is, and she is a child star from Mind Your Knickers.
Right.
If she ever was in the same room as Harvey Weinstein while she was, I feel like her head would have exploded. But anyway,
I feel like it's like a Harry Potter situation.
Right. Your scar starts to ache, and you're like, my scar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be going off with Lilith. Lilith is nice. She can be cold. She can be awkward. But at the end of the day, she's a good person, and I wish there were more characters on the show that would say that.
Right.
So we get our final scene. Frazier, Lilith, they're reconciling.
Yeah.
They're not together again, but they're gonna be okay.
They're gonna co-parent together, and hopefully they'll they want each other's mutual happiness, and that's good.
Yeah. We get our in-credits scene, which we have Daphne lying on the couch. She's in pain because of the psychic headache she's getting. We cut to a footage of a plane taking off from a runway, which we're meant to assume is the plane that Lilith is on to Boston. And then as soon as the plane takes off, we come back to Daphne, and suddenly she sits up and she takes away the ice pack, and she's all cured of her psychic headache because Lilith, that terrible, awful, evil woman, is gone.
Yep. And that's just glad to have an end credit bit that wasn't Eddie centric. It's fun.
I mean, I could have gone for an A. I mean,
it's a good stinger. It resolves the B story we left hanging about Daphne's psychic energy headache.
Right. We might have assumed, had it not been for that scene, that
she would have died on Saturday.
Not psychic at all. It was actually indicative of much larger issues, like she had cancer or something.
She had the head pain, and now she's terminally ill. But no, thankfully it was due to her psychic powers, which at this point aren't even controversial. We've established that she canonically has psychic powers.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the episode. That is the show where Lilith comes back. And I mean, I've already said we've already sort of talked about our favorite parts. We had the back and forth with Frazier and Niles.
Yep.
We had special guest star Roger Keller.
Roger Keller.
I'm surprised it didn't turn into a situation where they had to write his character into the show because it was so popular. It was sort of an Urkel thing.
Yeah, like a waiter, oh man, it's our wacky waiter neighbor friend. I feel like I can't believe they missed out on that opportunity.
I mean, you couldn't afford Roger Keller for that many episodes. The man's salary is gigantic.
He's done so much for so many people. Also, he's a delightful. Yeah, I feel if I were to think of the best Roger Keller. So imagine this. Imagine that Frazier or Niles. Let's say Niles has gotten a dog by the name of Bill, and the entire episode. They're looking for they've lost the dog. He was friends with Eddie, and then Eddie was like, "Oh, I'm getting neglected because there's a new puppy in town," and they lose Bill. And then at the end of the episode, they're like, "We've looked everywhere for Bill," and then Roger Keller, as the waiter, knocks on the door, and goes like, "Sir, here's your bill," and then the studio audience goes wild, just insane. He's a hero. The funniest hero. He's celebrated forever. That's my joke of this episode. That's the best joke. One I made up.
Running out into the streets chanting, "Roger Keller,
Roger Keller, Roger. We love you." He
gets elected to be the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
People are just throwing themselves in front of him.
Yep. Men want him and women want to be him, and it's important.
If Frasier Keller is listening to this, and he's not, I know that.
No, he passed away in 2017.
Oh, jeez.
We were joking, I went on his IMDb to learn more. He did pass away in Sherman Oaks, California. So
rest in peace, sweet prince.
We love you, Roger Keller. This is officially a Roger Keller fan cast, as well as a Frasier podcast.
We'll get to his other appearances on other shows at some point.
Of course, we have to.
But let's just talk briefly before we wrap up. We got our next episode, episode 17, A Midwinter Night's Dream.
Ooh.
After Niles has a fight with Maris, Niles and Daphne have a moment of mutual attraction during an attempt to make a reconciliation dinner.
Oh my gosh.
Stranded at Niles' mansion during a storm, Frazier... Sorry, I have to click to see the full summary.
Uh-huh.
Frazier must reach them before they do something Niles will regret. So it's been teased to us this entire season
for 17 episodes, and now here we are.
Right. Niles is very attracted to Daphne, and this is maybe the moment where something's going to happen, folks. And you got to tune in to find out what.
Oh, I'm so excited. We've been waiting for this. This is genuinely, this has been the entire series. We joke, like, this Frasier has had a consistent A story and then like a B detail, not like a full B story. But this is more like the B story for the entire season, and we're finally gonna have some payoff here. Ah, I can't wait.
Yeah, and it's not even the end of the season, so it's looking forward to it. Thank you, Wes Corwin, for being here and talking, and thank me for being here and hosting the show.
And big thanks to Roger Keller up in heaven, actor heaven. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Roger Keller.
Peace. Rest in peace. We love you, Roger Keller's family.
Roger.
And we'll see you all next week.
Yep.
All right. The Frasier on Frasier podcast wishes to thank KACL780.net for providing episode transcripts and Ronald O'Connell for providing our theme song, Frasier MIDI.